verse number 71, and inshallah we will understand further.
والله فضل بعضكم على بعض في الرزق فما الذين فضلوا براد رزقهم على ما ملكت أيمانهم فهم فيه سواء أفبنعمة الله يجحدون.
Allah has given some of you preference over others in provision. So, those given preference are not willing to pass on their provision to their slaves, so that they become equal in it. Do they, then, reject the blessing of Allah?
والله جعل لكم من أنفسكم أزواجا وجعل لكم من أزواجكم بنين وحفدة ورزقكم من الطيبات أفبالباطل يؤمنون وبنعمة الله هم يكفرون.
Allah has created spouses from among you and created sons and grandsons for you from your spouses, and gave you provision from good things. Is it, then, the falsehood that they believe in, and the blessing of Allah, that they reject?
So verse 71, 72, wallahi, each one of these verses have so much detail. I'm sure it's a common sense understanding, but it does say about a whole lot. And Allah gave fadl of some of you over other in the sustenance, the wealth and possession. Risk include every single thing a person has. In other words, from physical existence to the family, to the wealth, to the children, to the grandchildren. And this verse, please remember this verse and the 72, verse number 72. Please remember, I will inshallah talk about it. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَمَا الَّذِينَ فَضِلُوا, among those who were giving more, بِرَادِّ رزقهم على ما ملكت أيمانهم فهم فيه سواء. So these people who have been given more, they, for the slave or for their people under their supervision, they don't want to give them more and sharing it, so that these are miserly people, so that this the slaves or the other who are weaker or less fortunate cannot come to their level. أَفَبِنِعْمَةَ اللَّهِ يَجْحَدُونَ. So do they reject the blessing of Allah? In other words, we are given more. It's a blessing of Allah, not that it is our right. A person who thinks he or she born with the wealth and the family, rich family, or the silver spoon or golden spoon, it is his right. Basically, it is Allah who could have made anybody in his place or her place. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, be generous to people who are your slave. And in Islamic history, it is proven that it was at one time, slaves were the ruler all over the Muslim world. That's something funny to know. Nobody in the history have done that. And the Islamic history has one thing, it can say that the slaves were ruling all the way from Morocco or that Far East Africa to all the way to the China and north to south in India and all that. They were all Mamluks. They were the slaves. And the time is not there to explain a whole lot, inshallah some other time. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَاللَّهُ جَعَلَ لَكُم مِّنْ أَنفُسِكُمْ أَزْوَاجًا. And Allah made your spouses, means men and women are made from the similar soul as from the Adam, and all we know that when men and women come together, they give birth to a child. وَجَعَلَ لَكُم مِّنْ أَزْوَاجِكُمْ بَنِينَ. And gave you sons from your spouses, means from your wives you get children born. وَحَفَدَةٍ. Now this hafadatin, this is grandchildren's, great-grandchildren, zurriyat. Hafadatin in Quran and Arabic, the grandchildrens with their from the father's side or the mother's side are known as hafada, hafad or hafid. And in Quran, in other places, I want to talk about this month of Muharram. In Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَمَنْ حَاجَّكَ فِيهِ مِنْ بَعْدِ مَا جَاءَكَ مِنَ الْعِلْمِ فَقُلْ تَعَالُوا نَدْعُ أَبْنَاءَنَا وَأَبْنَاءَكُمْ وَنِسَاءَنَا وَنِسَاءَكُمْ وَأَنفُسَنَا وَأَنفُسَكُمْ ثُمَّ نَبْتَهِلْ فَنَجْعَلْ لَعْنَةَ اللَّهِ إِلَى الْكَاذِبِينَ إِنَّ هَذَا لَهُوَ الْقَصَصُ الْحَقُّ وَمَا مِنْ إِلَٰهٍ إِلَّا اللَّهُ إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَهُوَ الْعَزِيزُ الْحَكِيمُ. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that in that verse, when the Christian delegate came to have a discussion and question about Prophet Muhammad's prophethood. So he gave them open challenge under the sky, and that is called mubahila, and to curse whoever is liar. And he says, bring abna'ana wa abna'akum, our son and your son. And Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam bring Hassan and Hussein, who were his grandchildren, not his children. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran shows Hassan and Hussein were the sons of Prophet. As the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, when Allah was looking upon the progeny of all the prophets, he put my progeny in the flank of Ali. So my generation will continue with the name of Ali. So all those Sayyid, what we have in the world today, who say they are descendant of Prophet Muhammad, they are actually children of Ali and Fatima radiallahu anhuma. And this is where the Quran did not call them grandchildren. Quran called Hassan and Hussein. Prophet ﷺ translated and changed the meaning of the abna'ana wa abna'akum and nisa'ana wa nisa'akum. Nisa' means all the women, plural for the women. In Arabic, one woman is called mara, and it was nisa'ana. Prophet brought Fatima radiallahu ta'ala anha with him instead of every other woman, because women refer particularly in the marriage is the spouses, and all of his wives were alive except Khadija radiallahu anha and Sauda. These were the only two spouses who had passed away in his life. All of the other ones died after him. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Prophet didn't bring any one of his wives. He just brought Fatima. And anfusana wa anfusakum, yourself and ourselves, means you come and I come. And Ali, all the Muslims and the companions of prophets were there, but he took Ali radiallahu anhu. So this is how they were walking. On one side, Hassan was holding his prophet's finger, the left side, Hussein was holding the finger, and behind him was Fatima, and behind her was Ali radiallahu ta'ala anhu. This is how these five were walking. And there is, some people say, who are these Panjatan Pak? This is the five. Panja means five. Panj in Arabic and Farsi and Urdu and all words, Panj means five. And these were the five holiest people. And those Christians who were witnessing it, they said, by Allah, if these people, we see the light on their faces. This is written, reported in a hadith. This is what their statement, that if they raise their hand and ask the mountain to be moved, the Uhud mountain of Uhud will move from its place. So those are the places Allah honored them. Allah made them what they are. Not that we Muslim made them. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave them dignity and honor, whatever it is. So we also have to love and respect our Prophet and his family. These are the five sacred ones which Allah has chosen without our will and on in it. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Allah gave you grandchildren. I just wanted to elaborate the point. The Quran mentioned about grandchildren. Hassan and Hussein were mentioned by Prophet, that the detail about sons. And women were all represented by Fatima. And his own self was represented by himself plus Ali. And Prophet said, Ali minni wa ana min Ali. I am from Ali and Ali is from me. And he said, you are akhi fi dunya wal akhirah. Anta akhi fi dunya wal akhirah. You are my brother in the world and in the hereafter. And he says, your house is going to be in front of my house in the paradise. So this is how it is being done. وَرِزْقُكُم مِّنَ الطَّيِّبَاتِ. And the sustenance from the pure food. We are supposed to eat not just halal, we have to eat healthy and pure food. All the sustenance given to us, this is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is mentioning in the family unit. أَفَبِالْبَاطِلِ يُؤْمِنُونَ وَبِنِعْمَةِ اللَّهِ هُمْ يَكْفُرُونَ. And this believing in the falsehood, that believing in the blessing of Allah, they reject. And this is the reflection upon these people who deny Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Let's listen to the verse number 73.
وَيَعْبُدُونَ مِن دُونِ اللَّهِ مَا لَا يَمْلِكُ لَهُمْ رِزْقًا مِّنَ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ شَيْئًا وَلَا يَسْتَطِيعُونَ.
They worship, besides Allah, the objects that have no power to give them anything from the heavens and the earth, nor can they ever have such power.
فَلَا تَضْرِبُوا لِلَّهِ الْأَمْثَالَ إِنَّ اللَّهَ يَعْلَمُ وَأَنْتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ.
So, do not coin similarities for Allah. Surely, Allah knows and you do not know.
ضرب الله مثلا عبدا مملوكا لا يقدر على شيء ومن رزقناه منا رزقا حسنا فهو ينفق منه سرا وجهرا هل يستوون الحمد لله بل أكثرهم لا يعلمون.
gives an example. There is a slave owned by someone who has no power over anything, and there is a person whom we have given good provision from us, and he spends out of it secretly and openly. Are they equal? Praise be to Allah. But most of them do not know.
وضرب الله مثلا رجلين أحدهما أبكم لا يقدر على شيء وهو كل على مولاه أينما يوجهه لا يأت بخير هل يستوي هو ومن يأمر بالعدل وهو على صراط مستقيم.
And Allah gives another example. There are two men. One of them is dumb who is unable to do anything, and he is a burden on his master. Wherever he directs him to, he brings no good. Can he be equal to the one who enjoins justice and is on the straight path?
So these verses, there's one verse about ضرب الله مثلا عبدا مملوكا. It is narrated by Ibn Abbas radiallahu ta'ala anhu that there is a person named Hisham bin Amr, and he was the one who would secretly or announcingly spend money in the path of Allah, and his master Abu Jawaz used to stop him from that. And then وَضَرَبَ اللَّهُ مَثْلًا رَجُلَيْنِ أَحْدُهُمَا أَبْكَكُمْ لَا يَقْدِرُ عَلَى شَيْءٍ. And there was an example is given that among that there is one of these people, one is a slave and one is a master. So this was mentioned about it. And this slave is referred to the disbeliever, non-believing kafir, who has no power on him because he is not able to spend anything, because his wealth and expenditure, what he did, is wasted. And then this is the example given in the example of that a slave person is not free. And this is what وَضَرَبَ اللَّهُ مَثْلًا رَجُلَيْنِ أَحَدَهُمَا أَبْكَكُمْ. And one of them was was not able, he was a dumb person. And la yaqdirun al shay. So the slave who is dumb cannot help his master, as Islam frees the person from the slavery and bondage to these false gods. And this is where it is referring to وَهُوَ كَلٌّ عَلَى مَوْلِي. And he has really no benefit for the master, as Allah is our Mawla and the Muslims are free and they worship God, and that is the benefit of worshipping. And the person who is slave to the idols, false worshipping, has no benefit for them. So, and again, the وَمَن يَأْمُرُ بِالْعَدْلِ, and whoever command for the justice, وَهُوَ عَلَى صِرَاطٍ مُسْتَقِيمٍ, and is on the straight path. This was about Ali, Usman ibn Affan radiallahu ta'ala anhu. As a believer, he used to spend, and he was free, and he was on the straight path. According to, this verse about Usman radiallahu ta'ala anhu. Because these were the events which were happening in the time where we are discussing about what was the situation and circumstances as we understand the Quran. And this is what the reference is about. Let's listen to verse number 77.
وَلِلَّهِ غَيْبُ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ وَمَا أَمْرُ السَّاعَةِ إِلَّا كَلَمْحِ الْبَصَرِ أَوْ هُوَ أَقْرَبُ إِنَّ اللَّهَ عَلَى كُلِّ شَيْءٍ قَدِيرٌ.
To Allah belongs the unseen of the heavens and the earth, and the matter of hour of judgment is no more than of twinkling of the eye, or even quicker. Of course, Allah is powerful over everything.
وَاللَّهُ أَخْرَجَكُم مِّن بُطُونِ أُمَّهَاتِكُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ شَيْئًا وَجَعَلَ لَكُمُ السَّمْعَ وَالْأَبْصَارَ وَالْأَفْئِدَةَ لَعَلَّكُمْ تَشْكُرُونَ.
Allah has brought you forth from your mother's wombs when you knew nothing, and He made for you ears, eyes and hearts, so that you may be grateful.
So this verse matches with the verse which we heard earlier, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave you a birth and gave you to the knowledge where you come to know everything, and then comes to a point where you have no collection or no knowledge of any more anything. Ardhilil Umr. that we forget and we get demented. And here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala again is reminding us about that Allah bring you out from the womb of your mother. Butun, as uterus is not mentioned, but it is it's the stomach of the mother's body where a child is, or infant or fetus is growing. Ummahatikum, your mother. La ta'lamuna shay'in. You don't know anything at the time when you're in the womb of mother, and nor when you are born. Wa ja'ala lakum as-sama, and give you the ability to hear. Wal absara, and give you the ability to watch. Wal afida, and give you the heart and intellect and in mental or the brain. This is actually considered, afida is considered the primitive brain, which is what I think we can say hypothalamus of human, where it controls the autonomic nervous system, where we feel. Autonomic nervous system runs our body as the musculoskeletal system we control. Autonomic nervous system, which is a sympathetic and a parasympathetic system. Sympathetic system is the fight and flight and emergency. Parasympathetic system is for the calming and relaxation. And we know that I once talked about it. I think there's a whole lecture I have given about the autonomic nervous system and the brain of the human, which when we feel sixth sense, when we see a fight, flight, emergency situation coming, our body goes into the emergency mode to defend us, and it produces catecholamines, norepinephrine, epinephrine, and all these kind of dopamine, and those are the hormones which makes us fight, flight, and ready to protect ourselves. And then the autonomic nervous system comes in play when we are relaxed and resting. There's the biggest nerve in the human body is the vagus nerve. The right side vagus nerve come out and control here, and then goes down into the heart and lung, control our breathing and our heart rate. And then the left side comes to the diaphragm, and from anything between diaphragm and pelvis, all the internal organs are controlled by the parasympathetic system, and this is called vagus nerve stimulation. When we do wudu, we are supposed to rub it in the ear and run it down, and then pull. We should tug the ear and then rub it behind, and this thing, as we know, there's a carotid receptors, baroreceptors. People, when they have a tight neck, they get faint because of the too much slowing down the heartbeat from the vagus stimulation. Vasovagal syncope is the word. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about that. Afida is there. لَعَلَّكُمْ تَشْكُرُونَ, so that you may think. Now we are discovering our human body, what is inside us. And أَلَمْ يَرَوْا إِلَى الطَّيْرِ مُسَخَّرَاتِ فِي السَّمَاءِ جُمْ. So we'll come to that inshallah. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that we gave you the ability to hear and see. As we know, that person who is unable to speak is a dumb, and the deaf is the one who is unable to hear. Why? Allah gave us the ability to hear and interpret. When we hear, as when baby understand mother's speech, mother's heartbeat, that's why they want to be close to the mother, as the mother's carrying them for a whole term of pregnancy into their body, and they hear the mother's heartbeat. And it has been studied. When a person who came, actually they did a transplant in a woman, young woman who died, and her heart was transplanted into a man, and the baby was just born because she died at the birth, and the baby would not come to calm and rest, and they tried everybody, they could not find. Finally, the man who received the mother's heart, when they gave him that baby, the baby suddenly stopped crying, because the baby heard the mother's heartbeat. This is subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, miracle. It's a miracle. It's because baby was, when he held the baby to his chest, the baby stopped crying because the heartbeat was in the rhythm where mother's heartbeat was there. And we all find in our infancy, and especially boys are more attached to mother, and they want to be hugging the mother. They want mothers to hold them. And the people with the children with the ADD, I advise mothers to hold them firmly, and that calms them down. And they should wear size clothing. These undershirts should be tighter. That gives them calm and anxiety. So these are the things I'm just throwing in because, this is the reference here. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made Quran to apply in every time. So what I'm learning, I'm sharing with you. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us this ability and this hearing. Anybody who is deaf cannot speak. Why? Because they didn't hear. Speech developed based on hearing. So anytime when you hear the sama wal absara, and those people who cannot see cannot navigate, but then there are animals who are blind, the bat. Allah gave them sonic ability to have the sonic sound, which is the speech we cannot, supersonic sound or ultrasound, which we cannot hear, but they can, and they navigate and fly with that. So these are Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, I have created these creatures without eyes. In Pakistan, in River Indus, there are blind dolphins. and they move with the sonic. And in the bird and on the planet, we know mammal, which is bats, and bats are blind, and they can navigate and fly through the narrow space, and they do not hit. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given creatures all the ability, but human, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is different about that. It is about us when we hear and we see, we should be mindful and use our intelligence and intellect to believe in Allah. All this is only for one purpose. All this explanation is that Allah is your creator, worship none but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.